Well, it looks like we've got a little bit of extra time. And one of the things I enjoy doing the most when I have some spare time, well, is reading a really good storybook. So, because we've got time for a story, well, why don't we call this segment Story Time with Mr. C? And well, have I ever got a really good book for you today.
Norman Didn't Do It.
Yes, he did.
By Ryan T. Higgins. Norman was a porcupine. Norman's best friend was Mildred. Mildred was a tree. Norman and Mildred did everything together.
Strike one! You're right, Mildred. It is a little yellow-bellied sapsucker. I love playing tree together. Yay, you win!
Norman was happy with the way things were.
Okay, one more chapter, then it's lights out, Mildred.
Norman and Mildred. Mildred and Norman. Just the two of them. Until one day, there was someone else.
And who is that?
It was another tree. Suddenly, it was no longer just Norman and Mildred. Now it was Norman and Mildred.
And the other tree.
This did not sit well with Norman. Norman began to worry. What if the other tree wanted to be friends with Mildred? What if Mildred liked the other tree? What if Mildred liked the other tree more than she liked Norman? Norman kept a careful eye on the other tree. He watched as Mildred and the other tree grew closer and closer and closer.
You're playing tree without me?
Life wasn't the same.
Fine, you win.
Then it happened. The worst thing possible. Mildred and the other tree grew too close together. It was the last straw.
This is the last straw.
Even though, in this case, there were no straws, just branches. Norman could not lose his best friend, not to
The other tree.
Something had to be done. Norman planned and he planned until his plan was just right. Then, under the cover of night, Norman dug up the other tree and took it far away, very far away. Very, very far away. To a place where the other tree would never come between Norman and Mildred ever again. And just like that, the other tree was gone. Norman and Mildred were back together. Just the two of them. But it wasn't the same.
Other tree? What other tree? Oh, that other tree. I don't know what happened to the other tree. I didn't do anything. Maybe it went on vacation. Maybe it moved. How should I know? There, Mildred. You still have me.
Soon Norman started to think about Mildred without her new friend. Norman started to think about the other tree all alone out there. Norman started to think about himself and what he did. What if someone had seen him?
Let's think. There was the moon, there were the stars, there was the grass, and the trees. Oh no, the trees! What if they saw me? What if one tree tells another tree, who tells another tree, who tells another tree, who tells Mildred? What am I going to do? What have I done?
What if digging up your friend's friend in the middle of the night and taking that friend very, very far away was not the right thing to do? What if it was the wrong thing to do?
Stop staring at me, Mildred.
Norman had hit rock bottom.
I have hit rock bottom.
Something had to be done. Norman planned, and he planned again. Then he went back to where he had left the other tree to try and undo what he had done.
Yes, you're right, I went a little overboard. But in my defense, you were touching branches.
Norman knew life was going to be different,
Look who's back, Mildred.
and that was okay. He might even like it. Norman and Mildred and the other tree. Just the three of them.
And who is that?
Well, that sure was a fun book. I guess at one point Norman felt excluded, and at another point Norman was trying to exclude his tree's new friend, wasn't he? When I read that book, it makes me think of one of the core competencies, the core competency of critical and reflective thinking. And it makes me think about asking myself this question: do I know what it is like to be excluded? Have I experienced being excluded before? Have I excluded others? Here we have a little emoji face chart here where if I fill in this emoji face with my yellow pencil crayon, I might say, hey, I know what it's like to be excluded, and so I try not to exclude others. If I see a friend who's by herself or himself, I'd go over and ask if they want to play. And if a friend wants to play with me, I never say no, right? I always include people. If I choose this emoji face, I might say, sometimes I see a friend who's all by themselves, and I feel sorry for them, and I think maybe I should ask them to play, but I don't. I'm not really excluding them because I'm not saying no, but I'm also noticing that they could use a friend, and yet I'm not going and helping them all the time. And if I were to color in this neutral emoji face, then what I would say about myself, if I'm being honest, because only I'm judging myself, is I would say, yeah, maybe I know what it's like to be excluded, and maybe I don't. And in fact, there's lots of times when somebody wants to come and play with me, and I say no, they can't play with me. I'm already playing with another friend. You're not allowed to play with me because I'm playing with this other friend. That's kind of excluding. Somebody might come up to you and say, can I play tag? Well, tag is a game for lots and lots and lots of people, so why would you say no? Right? It's different if it's a game that only involves two people, like a game of checkers, and somebody's asking to play, they need to wait their turn. That's not excluding. But when you're saying to a person no, and you don't have any reason for saying no, that could be excluding to leave them out. And I would choose this face if that were something that I do quite often. So think about it. Do you know what it's like to be excluded? Have you been excluded? Do you sometimes exclude other people? I think I'm going to choose this face here, not because it's the right answer or it's a good answer, it's just I'm being honest with myself, and often I see people that look like they could use some help or need a friend or just need somebody to listen and talk to. And so I try not to exclude them. Instead, I try to go over with some empathy, and I try to make sure that they feel welcome. So I'm going to color that face in. Maybe you'll choose this one or this one. You have to be honest with yourself. Now, here on this page, where I'm asking, do I know what it's like to be excluded? I've chosen that face. And by choosing that face, I'm saying that I get it and I can do it on my own. When I see somebody who looks like they're alone, I, on my own, by myself, can go over and show empathy and ask them if they want to join me. If I'm choosing this face, it's sort of like saying, I'm getting there, I understand it a bit, and I'm beginning to do things more and more on my own. Sometimes when I see somebody that's clearly alone, I ignore it and I walk away. I'm not being mean, I'm just not going over and being helpful. But sometimes I am, sometimes I know to be. And if I'm choosing this face, it's like saying, I'm just getting started, and I still learn best with help. I don't realize sometimes that I'm being mean when I'm excluding somebody and saying, no, you can't join me. And sometimes I need that teacher, that adult, to step in and help me and say, you know what, you're not being very kind. Why would you say no? Why can't they join you? Let them join you, it's more fun. And so sometimes I need that help from that adult to step in. Depending on which face you've chosen, we can do a drawing down here. For this face, I could draw a picture of myself including others in an activity, maybe a game of tag or some other game. If I choose this face, I could draw a picture of me being left out or somebody else being left out. And if I choose this face, well, maybe I could draw a picture of myself purposely excluding someone else from an activity. Maybe the reason is because they're not a close friend. Because they're not my close friend, they can't play with me. So I could show myself maybe with my hand up saying no. Well, I chose this face, so I'm going to draw a picture of myself including somebody else. Here we go. In my picture where I've chosen this, I'm seeing a girl who's sitting here looking kind of sad and lonely. And I've chosen to say, hi, do you want to play with us? And I'm talking about playing with me and my other friend. It's okay to have more than one friend and have more than one person playing with you, right? So I'm seeing somebody knowing that they're feeling excluded, and I'm trying to get them to join in.